Hello and welcome into this week's NASCAR Xfinity Series Rewind show right here on Racing News Now. As always, I'm your host, Garth Allen. Thank you once again for joining me today. If this is your first time catching a Racing News Now video, consider going down below to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. On today's Xfinity Rewind, we're looking back at Saturday's 30th annual ROXOR 200. 200 laps, 211.6 miles. Around the 1.058 mile New Hampshire Motor Speedway in Loudon, New Hampshire. 3 cars failed to qualify for this race. The 68 of Dylan Bassett, the 38 of Josh Bilicki, and the 74 of Camden Murphy. 5 caution flags in this race for a total of 28 laps. Pretty tame race, not all that surprising for New Hampshire in the Xfinity Series. First caution came at lap 33 as the 23 of John Hunter Nemechek collected the wall in turn 1, and that would be the end of the day for the 23 car. Stage 1 concluded at lap 45 with Brandon Jones taking the Stage 1 victory. No incidents that caused a caution in Stage 2. That ended at lap 90 with Christopher Bell taking the Stage 2 victory. A couple cautions in the final stage. First one at lap 142 for debris. And final caution came at lap 155 as Harrison Burton got turned into the wall in turn 1 by the 12 of Paul Menard. 5 lead changes among 3 drivers. Christopher Bell led 186 of the 200 laps in this race. No one was even close to him in this race. 13 laps went to Brandon Jones, 1 lap went to Ryan Sieg. And those laps by Sieg and Jones all came as Bell pitted on that first caution from the John Hunter Nemechek incident, which put them up to the front. Sieg led a lap, and then Jones was able to get up to the front. He led the rest of his laps that he had until Bell retook the lead on lap 48 and never gave it up from that point. Christopher Bell absolutely dominated this race. 2 years in a row for Christopher Bell winning at New Hampshire, and he does it in such dominating fashion. Again, leading all but 14 laps in this race, and no one was even close to him. Nobody was even going to touch him in this race. Cole Custer started from the pole, but never actually led a lap in this race. Incredible drive out of that 20 car. Christopher Bell just apparently has New Hampshire figured out, because there was nobody going to touch him today. Justin Allgaier came home with a strong 3rd place finish. Tyler Reddick there at 4th. And we almost had 2 weeks in a row with the Xfinity Big 3 in the top 3 of the results for this race. Allgaier snuck by Reddick there in the closing laps to pick up 3rd and drop Reddick to 4th. But we still had the Big 3 in the top 4. It's incredible how week in and week out, the 20, the 00, and the 2 are all up front week in and week out. And that's why, as much as I hate the term Big 3, they really are the Big 3 in Xfinity this year. Paul Menard rounded out the top 5. Rest of your top 10 were Chase Briscoe, Ryan Truex. Ryan Sieg was in the 93 this week, there in 8th. Brandon Jones and Noah Gragson rounded out the top 10. 11th through 20th, Michael Annett came home in 11th, Austin Cindric 12th, Justin Haley there in the 13th position. Kaz Gralla was in the 21 this week for RCR. He came home in 14th. 21st through 30th, BJ McLeod and Stephen Light kind of swapping rides this week there in those JD Motorsports cars. BJ McLeod in the 01 was 21st, Stephen Light in the 4 was 23rd. CJ McLaughlin was in the 39 this week in that Ryan Sieg Racing number 39. He came home in 28th. Harrison Burton, after his spin late after the contact with Paul Menard, came home in 29th. Final page 31st through 38th. Shane Lee had engine issues on lap 112. He came home in 33rd. And John Hunter Nemechek, after his early accident, only completing 31 laps in this race, came home in the 36th position. And that's your results from the ROXOR 200. We are working on a Christopher Bell interview. Not 100% sure if we're going to get it. We've tried on every other one of his wins this year and haven't ever been able to actually get it locked down and scheduled. So no guarantees it's going to happen this time, but we are trying to get you a Christopher Bell interview like we got Cole Custer last week for Kentucky. So if that does happen, if it has already happened, it will be linked down below in the description. If it hasn't yet, you need to make sure you're subscribed and you get your notifications turned on so that when it does happen, you get a notification and you know that that Christopher Bell interview has gone up. Either way, though, we are going to head over to the media center now, and we will see what Christopher and his team had to say after that 5th win of the 2019 season.
You know, since we started last year, it's been pretty good. You know, we hit on a package that works for us, and obviously with Christopher's background, I think that kind of suits his driving style, and especially at tracks like this where you get into traffic pretty quick and you have lane options, and I felt like we were a little bit quicker than those guys today, but where he would really stretch it out is when we get to lap traffic, and he would start working the lap traffic just better than those guys. So he fits his style. I think our intermediate program's strong as well, but we've definitely been good on the short tracks. That's been our bread and butter so far. So we'll just keep capitalizing on that.
I think the season's gone really well so far. We just need to keep clicking away here. We're going to Iowa next week, which should be another really good racetrack for us. So I should have a shot at it. And then after that, it's coming into a little bit of a rough stretch for me as a driver, the road courses. I love Bristol, but I'm not much of a road racer. So we had moments where we were pretty good last year at the road courses, so hopefully I can put it all together. I know my cars will be good, so I'll have Kyle as a teammate at Watkins Glen, and hopefully I can learn some from him and be competitive.
All right, so let's take a look at your playoff grid before wrapping up here tonight. Obviously, Christopher Bell, Cole Custer now locked in the top 2 spots there with 5 wins apiece. Tyler Reddick with 3 and Michael Annett with 1. As we've been saying the past few weeks, I think it is very much obvious now, even more so than it has been before, these are your 12 playoff drivers. We are already set with this. Without a surprise winner, we're set. It's 113 points now between Brandon Jones in 12th and Greg Galding in 13th. Greg Galding is not going to make up 113 points in the remaining races before the playoffs. It's not going to happen with where he's running compared to where Brandon Jones is running. Even if Brandon Jones has a couple of bad races, it's not going to happen. So without a surprise winner, again, these are your 12 playoff drivers. It's pretty set in stone at this point. Among those playoff drivers, Justin Allgaier now jumps to the top of the guys in on points, 17 points up there on Austin Cindric, who currently sits there in the 6th position on the playoff grid. Allgaier, though, a ways back from Tyler Reddick from being able to claim that regular season championship. It's sitting, 146 points back from Tyler Reddick right now. So Allgaier, I don't think, is going to get that regular season championship, but he is the first guy in on points right now, which usually I would say means you're safe, but basically everybody is safe at this point. So that really doesn't mean a whole lot at this point. Only other movement this week, Justin Haley up over John Hunter Nemechek to that 9th position. Nemechek dropping to 10th after that early accident here in New Hampshire. But that is your playoff grid following the ROXOR 200, and I believe that will do it for us on this Xfinity Rewind. Not a lot to talk about there, as things are pretty set at this point, and it's not about, or at least in the Xfinity series right now, it's not about who's going to make the playoffs, because they're set without a really random, weird surprise winner, which isn't completely impossible, but is astronomically improbable, I would say, is probably the best way to describe it at this point. So it's not about who's going to make the playoffs, it's about who has the best chance at winning the championship at this point, because our 12 guys are kind of set in Xfinity at this point. So ARCA Rewind went up earlier today for their race Friday night from Iowa. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. K&N Rewind going up here shortly as well, getting recorded immediately after this, since these races kind of ran back-to-back from New Hampshire today, so keep an eye out for that coming up here in a little bit as well. And then a Cup Rewind coming up tomorrow evening, Sunday evening as well, to recap their New Hampshire race. If today's race is any indication, probably going to be a decent race, or at least compared to what a normal New Hampshire race has been recently. I mean, my expectations are pretty low to begin with for a New Hampshire race at this point. So, if you can beat some already low expectations, I guess we can call that a win. We'll see what happens with this Cup race. So, so yeah, if you haven't done it already, you need to go down below, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss a thing going forward from RNN. While you're down there, I want you to hit that big thumbs up button if you like the video. It is much appreciated when you do. But at that, this has been the NASCAR Xfinity Series Rewind Show. I'm Garth Allen for Racing News Now.